Before we jump into this episode, I want to remind you that while Caitlin and Sophia are dietitians, we're not your dietitians. This means the information shared in the Food Freedom Fertility podcast is intended to entertain, educate, and inform. It is not a substitute for medical care. This information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making any changes.
Happy Wednesday. It's Kaylee Hunt, the Food Freedom Fertility's podcast editor. This week's fan favorite is all about egg quality. This episode answers all of your burning questions you want to know about having optimal egg quality for ovulation, conception, and continuing into a healthy pregnancy. We hope you enjoyed this episode during the show's season break.
Welcome to another episode of Food Freedom Fertility. We are your hosts, Sophia Pavia and Caitlin Johnson.
Hello.
We are both registered dietitian nutritionists. We both are functional nutrition specialists, and we both work with women who are trying to make them babies. Mm-hmm. And we are here today with a very special guest, Aimee. Is it Raupp?
Raupp.
Raupp, not rape. Okay, good. Should we redo this intro?
Starting off strong. No, let's give it to him real.
Okay. Well, there it is. I didn't ask how
People
to pronounce.
always
Listen,
screw it up. It's fine.
there's two vowels in a row.
Yeah.
That's hard. Okay, there two vowels in a row.
I have a lot
in the
of
middle a word. It's
vowels
hard.
in my whole name.
You
There's
are,
a lot of
actually.
doubles.
My dad would always
Double
say,
E, double
I'm
P.
having a vowel movement.
That's awesome.
Or if we were playing Scrabble and there was like a lot of, he was like, I'm having a vowel movement. If we had too many
Oh
vowels
my
on it.
gosh!
But
This may
my
be the
name is a
best
vowel
intro
movement. Yeah.
we've ever had.
Well, okay, let's spell her name for people. It's Aimee. So a lot
space.
of vowels.
Four
Yeah.
in the first.
And
then
then
two in the
Raupp.
Yeah,
A lot of
double
doubles, a lot of, yeah. I wonder what that means, like if there's an astrological meaning to any of that.
I don't get that. Like, how could the meaning of your life be shaped by a name you didn't
kidding.
choose?
Yeah,
It's so weird. No, it's like a real thing where people are like, oh, of course his name is Donald.
Yeah.
His hair looks like this and his face looks like that. And I'm like, how? This is so crazy. Anyway, so Aimee is here because she is the nutrition for egg quality guru. She is the one you want to talk to if you are looking to improve your egg quality using food. So she has been doing this for more than 17 years. She uses all things nutrition as well as traditional Chinese medicine. So she sort of like she throws the book at you, frankly, is what I've come to see, is that she's using modalities from many different paths of medicine to kind of take the best of all the worlds, put it together to help you get pregnant using your own eggs, if it is at all possible for you. And so she wrote a book called The Egg Quality Diet, and I have read it. Caitlin has thumbed through it as well, and she is just sort of here to help you, the listener, understand the way that food impacts your egg quality, and maybe if you need to make some changes yourself, sort of what you can do to start to build your egg quality in a healthier direction, starting with food.
Yahoo.
So welcome, Aimee. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
I want to
Yes.
know, how'd you pigeonhole into this? What stood out about this? Did the world just throw every fertility patient at you, or did you have a natural love for this?
Yeah, I think because, prior to becoming traditional Chinese medicine, I'm an acupuncturist and a herbalist, right? I've been doing that for 17 years. Prior to that, I have an undergraduate degree in biology and chemistry, and then I went on to study at the master's level in neuroscience, and my plan was to go into medical school. But I was always really into research and data and seeing, quantifiable changes. And so I think when I came out of, I went a different path and decided to study Chinese medicine because it really spoke to me from this emotional and reasoning perspective, which clinical research or lab research did not. And I didn't set out saying, I want to treat fertility. I never did, actually. I wanted to be a general practitioner. I just wanted to treat what I saw kind of thing. And But what I noticed was when I just treated what I saw, and then the woman decided to want to make a baby, she got pregnant very fast, versus when I was getting these women that were trying to make babies, and I would like put on my like fertility hat and like try to, oh, these are the herbs that are good for fertility, like almost pigeonhole it the way Western medicine does. I wasn't having success. And so I kind of stepped back and I was like, oh, so this is, and that's like my tagline, right? Like fertility is an extension of health. I've been saying that for forever. And it's really what I believe. It's never about the numbers, or I don't even think the age, you know, I mean, within a certain time frame. But, and I think because I am so, I suppose, nerdy and also very attached to these clinical outcomes and using that as a measure of success, pregnancy was a very measured end result, right? It was either you are or you're not.
Yeah.
You know, you're either making a baby or you're not.
Gray area there, yeah.
And so I kind of got hooked on it. But then also what hooked me was, you know, I lived in New York City for many years, and that's where my practice was. And New York City just tends to draw in that typical type A personality that like can check all the boxes, can do all the things. And I just saw kind of like woman after woman being extremely disempowered by the medical system, being told like, oh, now I'm 35, I'm screwed, all my eggs are bad, I've run out of eggs, I can't do anything. And it like lit a fire under me where I was like, oh no, I am going to show these women that they can do this. Like they have the power, there's tweaks we need to make. And so that's my, you know, my first book in the fertility space is Yes, You Can Get Pregnant. And that's why I entitled it that. And that title triggers people still to this day. And I'm like, welcome it. Like, let's bring on the trigger. I want to see why it triggers you. Because I do believe, yes, you can get pregnant. You can do this. And for some women, whether they use their own eggs or not. But then the egg quality diet came after, you know, now I've been in practice for 17 years and just that book just came out, and that's really been a diet I've been using clinically for a very long time. I just started to really see dramatic changes, and everybody's asking about egg quality. It just seems to be like the be all end all. Like I just got to improve my egg quality. Like no matter what the age, it seems everybody's concerned about egg quality now. It's like one of the most Googled, you know, search engine kind of things. Like we looked from a marketing perspective, and not because I'm trying to market you guys, but more because I want to know what you guys are interested in and what you want to learn.
Well, and you want people to have access to
what they're
the good information. Yeah. And it's like, I feel like clinical expertise really speaks for itself. Do you know what I mean? Like 17 years is not a drop in the bucket by any means. And I, you know, similar to you guys, like the functional medicine background, like I am into all of it. I love all of it. You know, I'm studying at School of Applied Functional Medicine right now and really enjoying that program. I'm about to take my first semester exam.
Doing more school. Hey,
I'm a nerd. Like I'm a nerd and I love it, you know, but so yeah, so it just kind of evolved from there. But what I always do say to people is like, regardless of what you come to me for, like if you're coming to me for like PCOS, or you're coming to me for postpartum, or you're coming to me for you know, Hashimoto's, and you're not actually trying to get pregnant, it still is kind of the same approach where we're really just managing health, right? Mm-hmm. Because fertility is an extension of health. And so, and we just, there's ways we can
a triggering
optimize.
Statement, because all those type A people are going to be like, well,
I do
healthy. All those things.
I know.
Why am I not getting my period? Or why I'm getting my period, I'm ovulating. Why is it not working? I've been doing this for so long.
And that's really why I put out the egg quality diet. That's why it is annoyingly redundant with 100 pages of menus and meal plans. Like I've seen some of the reviews where it's like, this book is just basically a meal plan. I'm like, yeah, and I did it intentionally because...
It's called the diet.
But it also because they say to me, they're like, I'm doing all the things, Aimee, and it's not working for me. So your stuff doesn't work. And I'm like, okay, so send me a food diary. Let me see your food diary. Let me see what you're actually eating. Oh, well, this wasn't a good day, you know, because I don't always skip breakfast, but, you know, yeah, and I don't normally go from 12 to 7 without food, and you're like, how many days a week do you actually, so send me 5 days of a food diary. Oh, and then they start to realize, and it's not like I'm not blaming or shaming anybody, but I was like, you're actually not doing everything that I have laid out or that you guys have laid out, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's consistency and frequency. I think you can have an 80-20 rule or maybe a 90-10 depending on your age. I think the older you get, the tighter the reign's got to be. Mm-hmm. But I wrote the egg quality diet because of that, because I was like, okay, legitimately, 50 to 60% of the women that are paying to work with me or my team say they're doing all the things, but then when I look deeper, they're actually not doing all the things.
Yeah.
And so I need to
Coffee is
lay out all the
breakfast.
things. Right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, coffee's breakfast. There's no vegetables till dinner. There's minimal protein, no fat. I mean, I just had one girl. She's like, I don't know why I didn't ovulate this month, and I'm like, send me your food diary.
Because you didn't eat, sister.
And then sure enough, like then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, right, like, and then this and then that, and that's okay. We're human. Like, I want us to love ourselves and be human. I also want us to know that we don't have to be perfect to get pregnant. But I really think it comes down to this consistency and frequency. So it's like doing these things for an amount of time is what then eventually does make a lasting impact. And when we're talking about egg quality, you guys know this, but the listeners might not. Like, we're not just improving the quality of the cells in our eggs. When you improve the quality of any cell in your body, you improve the quality of all the cells in your body, right? It's non-discriminate, right? So we're amplifying health, right? We're accentuating, and then we're balancing hormones. And when hormones are balanced, everything gets what they need, and there's healthy blood flow to the ovaries, and all of these things, right? And so, to keep that in mind too, like you can't out supplement, a crappy diet or a crappy lifestyle, and you can't just take, acai 7 times a day and then think that your eggs are going to be good just because you're just doing that, right?
Right.
Yeah, that really is. So here's a question that I know a lot of people are wondering because it's hard to understand how this all works sometimes. So if women are born with all the eggs they'll ever have. So all of your eggs develop when you're a fetus and you're born, there's all your eggs. How is it possible then to impact your egg quality 40 years down the line, 30 years down the line? How can that happen if they're already all there when you're born?
Because they're just sitting there dormant. They're actually not developed, right? They're just there. They're these little bundles of cells. And then they get recruited. And, a lot at a time, basically, like maybe call it like 10. I mean, some estimate up to 100 each ovulation, but it just kind of, I don't know that we
Depends
really,
on the person, yeah.
I also don't know that we really will ever know that information. There's also information that like we might be making new ones as we go. There's really cool stem cell research that's showing we might actually be making more eggs as we get older, but it's not highly talked about at this point in time. But I do link to that research study in the Egg Quality Diet. So they sit dormant. They're kind of like, almost picture them like kind of like in a cooler, in the basement. And they're just sitting there. And then they don't do anything really. Some of them will die off between when you were born to when you start menstruating and ovulating. And then each month with ovulation, so we recruit some, and then the whole lot moves up. There's a process of folliculogenesis that is about 100 days long, and during that time you're constantly maturing these follicles, and some of which contain potential babies. Not all, though. I think even no matter how old you are, some of them will be empty, some of them will be bad quality. That's just kind of how it goes down. But what really impacts in the development in that folliculogenesis process in those 100 days is the external environment with which they are matured. And that is, so I did a live, you guys can find it on my Instagram, with Dr. Murhi at Rejuvenating Fertility Center. And he said something that I think...
We had him on our show.
Oh, he's so awesome. He's a dear friend. And a colleague, we work together, we're doing all sorts of stuff together. But he said, and I just thought he said it the best way, like, all your eggs are actually good. You're actually born with, you have your 23 chromosomes, and they're all sitting there in that little lot, and they're inside that cell. But what impacts the egg development in the process of folliculogenesis is the extracellular fluid that surrounds the cell that has those 23 chromosomes. And so if there's like hormonal imbalances, too many chemicals in the environment, not enough choline or fat or vitamin A or vitamin D, they don't get everything they need. And so then when they go through that first cellular division, which is meiosis, so that's their own division to then make the 46, right? I always screw this up. There can be problems there. And then when they mate with the sperm, then there could be future problems. But in that like dormant time frame, they're actually, they have everything they need, and they have the potential to make a healthy egg. it's really the interactions that happen during that 100-day process of folliculogenesis that impacts the quality. And then there's a lot of research to show, like there's a certain macronutrient diet, like certain ways that we know, like 40 to 50 to 60% of our diet being fat actually positively impacts egg quality. And, if there's been studies, it's so hard to contain and to random RCT control these studies because there's so many other variables. But we see women with previous unsuccessful, say, fertility treatments, IVF, embryo creation, then they change their diet, make healthy babies. And that they're now older, it goes against things, right? It goes against all the things that we know about. So it comes back to this.
And the things we can't control for, right?
Yeah.
You're going to age.
That's it. You're
right.
going to age.
So
you can do it. You could do it in a way that is more supportive, or you could do it in a way that's super aggressive, right? I can have a 35-year-old that's genetically as old as a 45-year-old. I can have a 45 that's genetically as old as a 35. Like, I've seen that, and I'm trying. That's something Marie and I are working on, trying to collect data based on that to see if egg quality actually translates to genetic age versus chronological age, which is fascinating stuff, but super hard to control for because what supplements is she taking? Does she have a stressful event? Was she traveling?
Yeah, and what was her puberty like? What was she fed when she was growing up? Yeah.
What did her mom eat when she was pregnant with her? So there's all these things, but like what we can control for and what I think the research is pointing towards is a certain type of anti-inflammatory lifestyle and diet seems to lower oxidative stress, which reactive oxidative species are what's aging us and causing cellular aberrations and abnormalities and wrongful cellular division, which can lead to irregular, or poor quality eggs. So we can control for that. And we can increase our odds, right? If something like, okay, so you have a 10% chance, like I've heard that recently from one doctor to a woman that I'm working with in her mid-40s, you have a 10% chance every month of getting pregnant with a healthy child. And I was like, I'll take those odds. Actually, I think that's pretty good odds. And then if you do the things I'm telling you to do, or the things you guys tell your clients to do, or the things that are written in my book.
Maybe it's 15. Maybe it's
it could even go to 30, I think, So to think about that, like, yes, as we get older, like you said, Caitlin, things start to turn, right? Things start to shift. But it doesn't mean that every 42-year-old has the exact same egg quality. That's not at all the case. Or every 28-year-old, in fact, right?
Right.
Yes.
I think you have kind of, what I always say is the younger you are, the less damage that has been done because it hasn't been the chronicity of damage, right? So if you've, lived, like I did in college, drank 5 nights a week kind of thing in your 20s, it did less damage if you had stopped that by like 26, 27, 28, right? Versus if you continued that to your 40s, it's going to do a lot more damage. Like the pipes get more clogged, it's harder for our body to detox. And so to think about it that way, that like I think the older we get, we can get away with less. But we can still recover. And we can still, like I have women and I'm doing these genetic age tests on them before they start working with me and then after. And I'm seeing like within like 3 to 4 months of following, a protocol like laid out in Egg Quality Diet, they take on average 4 years off their genetic life.
Wow.
It's awesome.
Or like add 4 years. I see what you mean.
Genetically, they're younger.
Exactly.
Like
Taking 4 years off your life sounds not like the right way to phrase that sentence.
Yeah. So I guess you're right. So they are
subtract.
I get what you mean, but yes,
like
exactly.
When they started with me, say they were 43.
It makes them 4 years younger.
It makes them 4 years younger. Their cells were like, I have some girls that come to me, they're 43, and I do the genetic test on them, and they're actually genetically 46. Like that's how much damage has been done. And then I can get them back to 42. But then I have girls that come to me and they're like 39. And I can get them to like 36, 30. And we don't know for certain, does that translate to better egg quality? But in my brain, it kind of should, right? It's like all the cells in your body are working better and more efficiently. And things are less, inflamed and less oxidized. I would then think that should translate to better egg quality. But we don't have the data yet.
Wow. Okay. So that is how. So you're born with your eggs.
And
to the
even
best
in
of our
menopause,
knowledge.
as Dr. Murphy says, even in menopause, you still have 1,000 eggs left. We can go in and recruit those if we want. Like he does his PRP and his ozone sauna. That's pretty awesome stuff.
Wow, yeah.
So go back to that.
He talked about that
Yeah.
a bit on our show earlier this year, or maybe it was last year, I think. I don't remember. Recently. And, okay, so you're using food to sort of change the aging process in the ovary and sort of in the whole body along the way. And that's sort of the concept behind this. And so the older you are, the more challenges you likely are to face when it comes to egg quality, just because of the wear and tear of life. Just because, and we see this pretty much in every walk of health. Like we see, somebody that, I thought of this just the other day. I was talking with my sister, and she has an 8-year-old who wants to start to skateboard. And she's like, I want to learn to skateboard too. Let's do this. And her husband was like, okay, but when you fall and you're 8, it's really different than when you fall and you're 40. Like, falling off your skateboard, you can just pop right back up when you're 8. Versus like when you're 40, you shatter 2 bones in your forearm and you have to have like 8 surgeries to get it back together, and it's never the same again. And when I worked in the hospital, I saw this exact same thing, because people would come in with the exact same injury, with the exact same everything. 2 people got in the same car wreck, had the same problem, and the 17-year-old does way better than the 45-year-old. And we see this in our current situation virus-wise in the U.S. is people that get sick at 8 years old versus someone who gets sick at 40 years old. We see really different outcomes. And truly the only big difference is their age. And so this is sort of like, this is the case regardless of across the board, just the aging that your body endures from just living on this planet. Breathing, heart beating, sort of like miles on a car.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
and just exposed to life.
Yeah.
Like you're walking down the street and a bus drives by and you breathe in some of that exhaust. Like,
especially if you're in New York City, like,
right?
There's just stuff everywhere.
Which I lived for a long time. Yeah.
Or even, the New York City in the U.S. gets a bad rap, but if you've ever worked in places like Hong Kong, if you've ever, truly the worst in the world. And a lot of, South Asian countries, African countries, India is really awful for pollution and water quality and everything like that. Even if you're living in a sort of more westernized town and stuff, the U.S. is actually doing pretty dang good when we compare it to the pollution of life in these other countries. And so some of that, it gets completely outside of your control. What are you just supposed to sit in your room and breathe into your HEPA filter for your whole life? Like, you can't do that.
No.
Yeah, you gotta
so what you can control, you do. And I feel like there is a lot that you can control for, and you can't always control for when you meet your spouse, or if you're partnered, or when you decide that it's the right time for a baby. And I don't think that women should be discriminated against if they decide to wait later, right? But that I also think we have to be very transparent. These are the chances, these are the odds, but this is what you can do to amplify your results, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or at least to feel like you've turned over every rock before maybe looking at donor egg or something of that nature, which I'm definitely not opposed to, but I do think some women are put in a position to give up on their own eggs before they actually need to, or that decision is made for them, when I also don't think that's fair at all. I think everybody deserves to decide when it's the right time for them.
Girl, don't even get us started. Caitlin and I have people daily that are told, you can't even try. You shouldn't even try.
Same with
and
me.
who are you to tell me whether or not I should use a condom? Okay. Shut up. Right. You're going to tell me that I can't have sex with my husband without a barrier today because I have PCOS? F you. That's ridiculous. That's so crazy to say you shouldn't even try. Okay. And I get it. What's meant by that? I don't think you should invest years of your time trying on this. That's a different sentence than you can't even. No, there's no way. You can't try. Or you
100%.
shouldn't try to conceive until you've lost this amount of weight or until you...
Or we're not going to do any
whatever.
further testing until you have a third miscarriage. What?
Oh, that is demonic. That is just
that one,
so
it spins me
sinister.
out.
The complete disregard
Like,
for
but you're
human
just
life.
so young. So you just
Yeah.
keep trying. It's just bad luck.
It does not... Human life means nothing, and the fact that this was your baby means nothing to them. It's just they're like, oh, whatever, you move on.
I think we're coming a
crazy.
good step forward in the advocacy there. I think doctors are starting to listen to that a little bit more. Like, not everyone, but I was listening to Dr. Laura Shasheen, who's really public and trying to put out good information, and she's a reproductive endocrinologist, and she advocates, like, if you have one miscarriage, that's enough. You get treated the same way as if you've had 10. Like, it's worth looking into. And I think that the more we echo that need and the more women and partners go in and say, I want more testing, I want more information, I think all this noise we're making about it is being heard.
I do too. And I think, I'm sure you guys agree, I feel like half of the job between my team and I, and like our coaches and myself, is teaching patients how to advocate for themselves and get the right care.
Yes.
And I take that part of my job extremely seriously. You know?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm all about integrative, and I'm definitely not like, oh, just follow the diet. You don't need fertility treatments, or you don't need a workup. And I'm definitely not like, oh, take these Chinese herbs, and you don't need to see a hematologist. I am all of it. All of it should be looked at. We come at it with all the things. I'm all for like extra doses of fish oil and steroids if you need them, right? Or a blood thinner if you need it. But we have to advocate for our patients, and it's our job too to stay on top of the research and constantly looking and giving them, I think it's part of what they pay us for, right? It's like the best distilled down information possible so they can get to that baby faster.
Mm-hmm. And that's the
Or
point.
their next
It's not
game in
just
their life.
it's not just even egg quality or pregnancy. Is we want healthy families and children, right?
Well, that's what I always say. My end result really isn't a positive pregnancy test. That is awesome. I love that.
It's like the step 2, right?
But it's step 2. Step 1 is mom nourishing mom, like her taking care of her, so that you can be in your power to then be the mom that this world needs, right? That's it. And then also, we know from the data and the research that what you nourish yourself with before you get pregnant and while you're pregnant doesn't just impact your child, it impacts your child's child. So it's 2 generations. So you have, I take that so seriously, and I expect my patients to do the same.
Mm-hmm. So
that is really, I am out of words. I sound dumb. I just mean like that. That is a really important concept. I was just on with someone this morning that was like, can you make more posts and do more things about what to do when you're a picky eater, because I've got all this stuff and I want to get pregnant, but I don't eat vegetables and I don't like fruits.
I love that. Oh, I don't like any vegetables. So I'm like,
and I'm like, okay, what if it isn't about you though? Like, what if it's like your baby has no mom but you, and it can't go get nutrition somewhere else because you don't like to eat this? Mm-hmm. Like, and this is multiple generations being impacted by the fact that you think, green vegetables are icky.
Mm-hmm. Well, and so let's say they say, I only like broccoli. That doesn't change the fact that you need this many cups of vegetables a day.
Yeah.
It should be more than just broccoli, but if that's all you like, you're going to be eating a hell of a lot of broccoli.
Exactly.
Yeah. Really the point we came to was like, right now, while you're trying to conceive, this is the time to start expanding to work at it every day. Well, I don't really like carrots, but you know what? This is a carrot with honey and balsamic thing. Let's give that a try. You know what? That's not so awful. Or I don't really like green vegetables, but I've found that if there's enough butter and cheese on that broccoli, I do like it. Or it was pretty good raw, dipped in this sauce. And this is the time to start expanding. I say I don't like green vegetables, but I've never tried broccolini, so we're trying it today. And to work now at getting, more vegetables or more of the thing that you don't like that is important for your health and the health of your baby.
Yeah, and I feel like consistently it's like 6 to 8 servings of vegetables a day is like the same thing of like you can't out supplement, right? Everybody's like antioxidants. It's like, guess what has the most antioxidants? Oh, vegetables, And liver, I'm a big fan of liver.
Us too, girl.
Oh yeah, dudettes. I mean, my husband's buddy raises cattle, and he just gave us all this meat. We bought a bunch of meat off of him. We did a cow share, and we have got so much liver, and we got the cow's whole heart. I'm so
amazing.
Excited.
Yeah,
to start
organ
prepping
meats
all
I
that
think
out.
are highly underrated. I mean, with my Chinese medicine background, it was like that's a huge part of health. It's like during the season you eat the organ, like that's just what you do. So like in the winter you're eating kidneys, in the summer you're eating heart. Liver is kind of all year round because it's so tonifying to the blood. But I really feel like we're missing the boat on some of these really nutrient dense proteins. And I see, and you
Because
guys
we've
probably
decided
see the
they're
same.
icky. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And
like
I
chicken
see,
breast is the
oh,
only thing to eat.
And
that's when it's cut into strips, breaded and deep
And
fried.
there's no, like, I want a chicken thigh. I want you to have the skin. I want you to eat off the bone. And
I love chicken strips as much as the next guy.
same.
Who doesn't love that? It's delicious. But flavor can't be the only thing that we consider.
Yeah.
There have to be
and
other
we can
things
change our
considered,
palate, because I see it when I put my clients, through the egg quality diet is an elimination diet, right? So we're gotten down to the bare bones, and then we slowly reintroduce, and we see the symptoms that come up in our body. Most of my clients feel so good eating that way. They don't go back to their old ways, and they don't want to, regardless. Like, they hit this point where they're like, regardless of baby, this is how I want to live and feel, because I feel amazing. And to me, that's when I know, like, baby's coming through, because it's like, okay, you know what I mean? They've hit this point where, like, it's about them and feeling good versus I can't eat gluten or dairy for fertility, which I don't agree with. But, that seems to be the trending conversation out there. I do think gluten and dairy can be really detrimental to a lot of people, and especially if it's not organic, or sprouted grains. But, this idea that, like, oh, there's a fertility diet and I have to follow it, otherwise I can't get pregnant. But why does my friend eat McDonald's and she gets pregnant? It's like everybody's body needs different things and different levels of nutrition to really thrive.
And she's going to pay the man for that
that's it.
McDonald's.
And so
Okay,
is the
she's
baby.
not paying
And I
it
don't
in the
wanna
same way you are. But
I agree. I don't want to
there's a
shame her,
cost.
but that baby is not going to get the goods that your baby's going to get. And I'm not, here to talk crappy about people. But people ask me, like, well, why does
it's okay. We can shit on McDonald's. Go for
why
it.
does the crackhead get pregnant? And I'm like, well, like, okay, so she did. So
Well,
she didn't
she's
have time to get damaged.
17.
She's 17, so she hasn't had all the time. But that baby is honestly, it's not set up for success, and
not
that
a
is
good
devastating.
scenario
And that's
there
not
either.
the kind of moms I'm looking to bring into this world. Sorry,
Right.
Or
Yeah, you're
babies.
birthing more than
Yeah.
one thing.
I know.
Right
I get so much hate for that when I advocate for, like, I think the world needs more moms who want to be moms and are becoming parents on purpose. And I think that your quest to get pregnant is sacred and beautiful and important. People flip out on me. They're like, I had my baby as a surprise and I'm a good mom too. And I'm like, okay, I'm not saying that's the only way you can be a good mom.
But intentional. Be very intentional about it. I think that is very important, to be intentional. And to understand, like I always say that to my clients, what is your why behind bringing this baby through? What is your why? Why this partner, or why this time in your life, or why that sperm donor, or, what is your why? It can't just be, I need to check this box. And for some women it is, and that's okay. I don't judge you.
It's a pretty big box to check. Yeah, I see that.
It's a big box.
I was just on a call before this about how, every living organism has a big urge to reproduce. Yeah. And that is essential. That is, foundational to what it means to be alive. Mm-hmm. And especially, in the type A driven career types, or even beyond that, we see women kind of being like, having children just slows you down. It's dumb. I don't want to just be another mom with a minivan. I don't even want to have kids, yada, yada. And then the big 4-0 starts approaching, and suddenly they are just gobsmacked with the fact that this is foundational to, this urge that they have as a very human being, as an organism that's alive, to reproduce. And to see how that sort of makes you really vulnerable. And that's not a bad thing, to be vulnerable. But it does make you have to be more judicious about what you're deciding to do, and sort of acknowledge that vulnerability, instead of just going for everything because I see so much like, oh, I'm going to spend $50 on this bottle of essential oil that's like going to guaranteed to make me pregnant. And it's not that the person who sold you that is a predator. It's that you are incredibly vulnerable. Like a leaf is prey to a caterpillar. Yeah. You know, no one would think of a caterpillar as predatory. No one's like, oh, the predators of the jungle, the caterpillar. Nobody thinks that. But
I do judge essential oils and hormone drugs.
I know.
I know.
And
everyone rolls their eyes.
Yeah. And I also judge people who are like herbalists like me, and they're like, take Dongguai, and I'm like, you got to do an intake on that patient. You don't know if Dongguai is the right herb for them. Like
I
or
know.
Vitex. I'm like, Vitex doesn't work for everybody.
It can be bad for some people.
I go ballistic about that.
Well, Aimee, okay, I know that our listeners are like, okay, so she wrote this book. Yes, you can get pregnant. She wrote this book, The Egg Quality Diet. Like, what's the Reader's Digest version on egg quality diet? You mentioned that it's an elimination diet. Like, what are some of these pillars that you're like non-negotiable? This is going to help you.
The macros, I think. So 40 to 50% fat.
Okay.
Good
Preach
quality
it. Preach
fat.
it.
Yeah. 30
high quality fat. Put it in your mouth.
Protein, and then the rest good quality carbs, not really grains. So we're talking like sweet potatoes and squash and things of that nature.
Fruits and beans.
Nuts, if they can. Like it is an AIP elimination diet, so autoimmune paleo with a little Chinese medicine thrown in there. There's a little bit of like a bone broth cleanse in like phase 2, so just 4 days of kind of, So my goal is to heal the gut, to improve absorption, give your body the nutrition it needs so that then it can make healthy quality cells in your body and your body can heal, has everything it needs. Because that's what pregnancy is. Your body saying, I got all the goods. I'm good. I'm functioning just fine on my own. And in fact, I have enough to make a human.
Yeah.
Versus I'm running on empty. I got reserves because I'm not eating till 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I'm snacking on chocolate covered almonds and just having coffee for breakfast, right? It doesn't work as we get older. Like, and older to me means like even in our 30s, that this is going to work against us at some point very soon. So that's the Reader's Digest version. But basically you go through a pretty strict elimination diet where you do cut out like nuts and seeds and beans and nightshade vegetables.
There's a phase of it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's phases. And then you slowly reintroduce. So it's meant to be for you to discover the diet that works best for you, right? So some people can have gluten. Some people could have dairy, right? But I do say if you're going to have nuts and seeds, they should be soaked and sprouted. If you're going to have grains, they should be sprouted, right? Like that kind of thing. Like I found I can do like a slice or two of organic sourdough a week, right? If I do more than that, it don't work for my body, right? Almonds, same thing. I do better with like almond butter. I don't do great with raw almonds. And I find that with a lot of my clients. Beans and nightshades seem to be very triggery for a lot of people, especially the autoimmune girls. So but what doesn't seem to be triggery is like avocado and eggs and bone broth and liver and, the squashes. I mean, I do talk about in the book histamines. I also talk about SIBO because I do think those are different categories that, we all see. And obviously the starchy veggies are not going to work for the SIBO. So I point them there. I'm like, if you're having this reaction, go to this chapter and I want you to read about SIBO and adjust the diet this way. But it does seem to work. And I've had incredible success with women with endometriosis, with women with PCOS, and also women with previously failed, IVF, or like women that haven't gotten pregnant in 8 years of trying, and then they do the diet. And I'm not saying the 100 days is the fix. Sometimes it's a year of the diet, so it's you figuring out your diet and what works for you and pulling out your triggers. I give you a symptom checklist that you're going to go through. So it's not about fertility. It's really about like all your health symptoms.
Full body health.
Mm-hmm. And you see things start to change. Mm-hmm.
Here's a question, because I see other people like the egg whisperer and other egg quality people that are considering themselves to be egg quality authorities. You've mentioned eggs, you've mentioned bone broth, you've mentioned liver, you promote a lot of wild caught cold water seafood, grass-fed butter, dairy. Meat. Why is it that these foods are necessary, and why could you just kind of talk to like what might be the issue with the only plant approach?
Fat. essential fatty acids, choline, vitamin A. Those are the things that we're missing. We're missing fat-soluble vitamins. If we're eating a plant-based diet, we're just not getting those nutrient-dense foods in. And I think it's very hard to get that in from just a plant-based diet. And then also, we know things about genetics. If some people have, certain genetic SNPs, they actually can't get any omegas from plants. They just can't do it. Yeah. They have to do fish. You got to do fish oil. It's called FADS. It's a SNP. It's there. It exists. It's real. Flax seeds are not going to get you anywhere, if you have this genetic SNP. And I see it. I probably see it 1 out of 8 patients, so it's out there. And
that's pretty prolific. Well, yeah. I guess we're looking at a
population that's already having compromise.
Yeah. Okay, that does make sense.
But yeah, it's, I think it comes down to you're just not going to get all the phytonutrients and honestly things like cholesterol. We need cholesterol. Cholesterol is the master to all the rest of our hormones. We need choline. We need vitamin D is not a vitamin. It is actually a hormone, right? So, and those things come from these really nutrient-dense, typical animal products, to be honest. But I also, my plate is still more veg than it is protein, right? A couple ounces of good quality protein. But I see the sweet spot being above 80 grams of protein a day for women, 6 to 8 servings of vegetables. That seems to be the sweet spot. And if you're eating the kind of protein that we all recommend,
you're getting fat too.
Grass fed, you're getting the fat. You don't even have to think about the fat. If you just aim for 80 grams of protein a day, if they're a little, say above 170 maybe in pounds, maybe we're going higher, closer to 100 or something like that. Then the fat automatically falls in, and then the carbs, and I do see limiting grains seems to have a major impact, especially on things like endo and PCOS. And then they're all different, and that's why it's an elimination diet and a reintroduction, because then you get to kind of learn what works for your body. And then, of course, there's tons of resources on the website that goes with the book about things like supplements and lifestyle. I couldn't put it all in the book, so I just put it all on a website. And so there's a ton of information that goes along with it. Because I don't think diet is the only piece, but I do think it's a foundation. And I do think the more we look at the research and the more we see the numbers climbing with women dealing with fertility challenges or things like hormonal imbalances like endo or PCOS or POI or POF, whatever we're calling it this week, or autoimmunity, there is, gut health is compromised and inflammation is rampant. And those are the two things that it seems like if we can get that under control, we can increase the odds of getting pregnant.
Amen.
And I guess you're not the plant-based person, but if we are avoiding grains and legumes for our autoimmune triggers, where does the plant-based protein come from in that scenario?
It doesn't.
It can't.
Wheat germ? I don't know. It's
well, that's grain.
I know. I'm being sarcastic, but it doesn't. It's all of a sudden it's girls ask me all the time, can I be a vegetarian and do the diet? I'm like, if you're willing to eat eggs, if you're willing to
for
take
every meal, every day,
liver in capsule form, and if you're willing to do some fish and maybe fish broth, there's great fish broths that are out there that exist. Vital Choice makes a great one that you can mail order. Or are you willing to do bone broth? And a lot of times, I don't need you eating meat. I really don't. It doesn't seem to be the ultimate, but if you're willing to do fish, take the liver, do the bone broth, and do the eggs, and then add in all the veggies, we can totally do it. Butter or ghee, depending on their dairy situation. Yeah. But, if we plants, beans, legumes, nuts, seeds, I guess all of them contain lectins. Lectins can be super hard to digest, and they leave us nutrient deficient. And so if that's the mainstay of your diet, that can be causing the problem.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for sort of explaining that, because I know that there's just a lot of different people out there that are speaking to egg quality and they have a lot of different theories. It can be hard to navigate.
Yeah, it is. And it's overwhelming. Who do you trust? I think you trust, that's my thing is who do you trust? I think you trust the clinical experience. I do, right? We've seen it. Yeah. I always say that, don't take advice from someone who isn't actively seeing patients, is my opinion. or hasn't
Boom,
seen patients
bomb
for a very
dropped
long
right there.
time.
Yeah.
Do not take advice from them because they are not seeing their stuff
feet aren't
in
on the
action.
ground.
Yeah,
they don't have the context. And I don't think that they have the skill to translate it into real life interventions, because that's where we're going to get all the juice from, is like, you actually have to be in your kitchen doing this. You actually have to be making these lifestyle changes. If somebody can't actually help you to do that, they can't help you.
Mm-mm. And also, if someone doesn't practice what they preach, I don't think they can help you. You know, it's like, and we're all also like perfectly imperfect, and we're allowed to be human, and we're allowed to, you know, perfection does not equal pregnancy. And I worry when women are way too perfect, like when they're like, oh, my macro this day was only 42%, and I'm like, okay, let's take a breather. Like,
I know, I see that so much too, because we do
trying
have
so
these
hard.
driven type A women that are just a bare knuckle bucket of get it done. They will get it done, and I love that about this patient set. That's why I do what I do. I love these women. I love that they're not coming at me and being like, but what can I eat from the gas station? And I'm like, what? You know, like, I don't hear that from this population, but at the same time, it can lean into like some serious perfectionism and almost coming into like disordered eating territory.
well, that's it. And I was there once, and I know that feeling. You know, it was a long time ago now, but I have a lot of compassion for that, and try to really like see it when it's coming out, and like, okay, how can we soften this now? Like, how can we now fold in things that you enjoy, like a glass of wine or coffee? I love that too. Of someone asked me, it was like another, you know, fertility expert, and he was just like, he was trying to suss me out, like, what kind of person am I? Do you say women trying to get pregnant can have coffee and alcohol? And I was like, I do. He's like, you're my kind of person. And I was like, that has to be organic, has to be not on an empty stomach, you know, when it comes to coffee.
Can't be every day for every drink.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know, it's like, but yeah, you can do that. You should be able to live your life and enjoy your life. And I think there's a lot of food you can find that's really enjoyable on like our diet plans, right? I mean, I don't feel deprived. I had bacon wrapped scallops last night for dinner with broccolini. It was freaking amazing. Mm-hmm. I feel very satisfied. My husband's very happy. You know what I mean? My child didn't eat it, but it's like, we can live on this. And I also think if we look back at our ancestors, this is kind of how they lived. It was very, you know, I don't know, simple ingredients, good quality.
Nose to tail, eating all the parts of the animal. They were not breading and deep frying the chicken's breasts.
They probably would look at us and go like, what?
They would say, no wnder, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
they'd
my
look at
grandmother
our
used to,
mac
like,
and
suck-
cheese that looks like somebody melted down a highway cone, and they'd be like, what is that?
Yeah, it's terrible.
I say this because my husband came home the other day from the grocery store with the Cheetos brand mac and cheese designed to taste like Cheetos. And he got multiple boxes of this. And he was like, I got this. Look at this. And I was like,
You're
are
fired.
you stoned?
No room. Read your audience.
Are you high? Like, this is something a high person would buy. This is like Bunchies right here. What the heck? And he wanted to make it, and we made it, and it was terrible.
Shocker.
It tasted like the bottom of a bag of Cheetos, like that stale oil. Oh, blah, I couldn't even, it was so bad. But anyway, I just think of foods like this that our ancestors would be like, that is not a color that exists in nature. I don't think we should be eating that. That doesn't smell like food. I'm scared. That smells like pool water. I don't know. Yeah, okay. Well, Aimee, thank you. Excuse our little diatribe there.
I think
Thank you
somebody
for
would
answering that.
listen to even the macros and go like, whoa, I'm scared of that. Isn't that going to give me heart disease?
Yeah.
Yes. So what
Or
do you
my
say?
I'm going to get fat. I don't get heart disease.
I see cholesterol go down, right? Because remember, I'm looking at labs before they start, and I look at labs after. I see all the cholesterol numbers go down. And if I don't, I put in an enzyme. Typically, then they're having a hard time with fat or something like that. And sometimes coconut, right? Coconut for some people can trigger cholesterol.
It is
to go
high
up.
saturated fat. And
But
so, yeah.
not mostly not everybody, right? It's like 1 out of 10 or something like that, maybe even less. It's probably 1 out of 20. But yeah, it's just not what we see clinically. It's the grains are what is screwing. Grains are causing inflammation. Lectins are causing inflammation. That's what's causing our cholesterol to go up, and that's what's triggering weight issues. So no, It's just not what I see clinically, and I'm sure it's not what you guys see clinically either.
No,
so I would just say, if you haven't tried it, and you've tried everything, and you're still not getting pregnant, it's worth a try, because it's not what we see. Mm-hmm. And in fact, more and more cardiologists are like, oh, Mediterranean diet is what lowers cholesterol. And it's like avocado and eggs and olive oil, right?
Yes.
No red meat, maybe, but, you know.
Wow, that is very informative, and I'm so glad that you are here sharing all of this with us. And we have to take a pause because Caitlin just got handed her sweet little baby. She muted herself so we wouldn't hear, but her little guy, her little Shebe, is here. Shebe.
Hi, beautiful.
Oh my goodness, what a sweet little face he's got. Listeners, you're missing out. Okay, if we had video going right now.
Yeah, sorry. I'm going to whip my boob out. You guys keep going, and I'll join in once our noises
Once
stop.
He's latched on. Okay, that sounds great. Thank you. Okay, well, thank you so much for answering that specific question, Aimee. And I guess moving forward for our listeners, what everybody wants to know is they're kind of wondering, you know, at what point is there maybe not so much hope for someone to use their own eggs? Like when maybe should you call it, in your opinion? When is there a time where, and I know there's not a straightforward answer. It's not like, well, when you hit 47 or like when you have this amount of antral follicle count or something. Like, I know there's probably multiple lines in the sand that are for multiple people. Can you sort of tell us what those might be? Where sort of what you see that makes you say, like, I don't know if this is worthwhile for you to continue this way?
Yeah, I think I gauge it mostly on heartache, right? Like, how much more can you handle? And sometimes finances, how much more can you handle here? I do think, like, I have, you know, my oldest to date is 48 that just made a healthy embryo using her own eggs, which is the oldest to date. She did do a mini IVF type of stimulation, so very little stim and a retrieval. That was with donor sperm, so I do think we have to take that into account. And then I do have 46, 47-year-olds. I have a handful this year, or last year, I guess, now that we're in 2022. That conceived naturally in healthy children with previous...
So like a spontaneous pregnancy.
Previous failed fertility treatments and kind of like gave up or decided no more IVF and donor egg wasn't an option for them. And then I have women that are, you know, in their early 40s. I have women in their late 30s that have used donor. I think it's just, I always say to my girls, when you know, you know. So I think it's something to, some people know that they're open to that and some people know that they're not, right? So I think that's like a category one. And then, you know, if we're pushing late 40s and it's not happening, it is a conversation I will have you discussed donor? How do you feel about that? Sometimes I have women like similar to that 48-year-old using donor sperm first, and it actually makes a big difference. So there's that, even if we don't see necessarily a male factor. So, you know, it just, I think to me, I have to take in the whole picture. If you're 150 grand in on IVF and there's still no hope and you've now seen your seventh doctor and, you know, you've tried all the things and you're open to donor. I also encourage women to start the donor process at the same time. It's similar with my recurrent pregnancy loss girls with surrogacy. I'm like, I think we should open the door. I think we should look at surrogacy. And then we should also do this transfer at the same time, right? And I've had many girls actually have better outcomes when they just even opened the door to the idea. You know, I just had to have a conversation with someone this morning about, like, she's never done IVF. And I'm like, I think it's time we pursue that, you know? And she had a really good cry and she's very scared of it. But I just said to her, I just don't want you to look back and regret that you didn't look under every rock. And so I think that's an emotional self-check-in, right?
Yeah.
But I haven't seen, you know, like, as per the age thing, like I was shocked at the 48-year-old. I was like, holy moly, that's amazing. I do think we have to take the donor sperm into consideration, though.
Yeah. And still, you know, not to be the rain cloud here, but a healthy embryo doesn't equal a healthy baby.
No,
God knows I
that's
wish
it.
it did. I truly wish it did.
And that's it.
But it doesn't equal a healthy baby you get to bring home necessarily.
Yeah. And she hasn't transferred it yet, so that's where we're at. You know, we'll see. She's looking into maybe a surrogate. But anyway, just for personal reasons, not for anything else. But yeah, I do think there is something to this whole new realm of, genetic age and biological age versus chronological age. And I do think we are healthier and more savvy than ever before. And I think we're really empowered and taking better care of ourselves. So I see the window extending. I never in my career have I had so many 46 and 47-year-olds pregnant. Like never in the 17 years. It was like 44 was like my stop, 45. And now it's like another year later, which is it's very interesting to me. I don't know that it's going to go much further than that. But then you pull in things like PRP, like what Dr. Murphy does, ozone PRP. Mm-hmm. He has a 50-year-old pregnant right now with her own eggs, And so and a healthy child. She's like 30 weeks pregnant. Like she's having this baby. She's coming home with this baby. But that is rare, not normal.
Yeah, this is one time we've ever heard of this. This isn't like everyone can do this. Go do it
and
at
that's
home
it
yourself.
Too. It's not a guarantee, and it's not a reason to put it on hold for longer. And that I think that is the drive point. Yeah, just
because these celebrities are doing it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be. Well,
and that's it too. And they're not being completely honest with you. And chances are, there was donor involved. And then it's their choice. I think it's everybody's choice. You share, you don't share, you don't have to. We can make assumptions. Yeah. She could have froze eggs when she was 35 too. No one's talking about that. And I see that too. There could have been a frozen embryo, a frozen egg.
I see that too. There's an account. I maybe won't use her by name, but there's an account on Instagram that it talks about having babies in your older age and acts like she's really got the keys to these, having babies in your older age. And she's always showing pictures of, these little babies in her 40s. And I'm like, well, you used donor materials and and a surrogate. Or, it's like you could get a cactus pregnant with these things. Don't act like you have the key to helping people. You don't have the key. You have the same options as everyone else. You chose the most expensive thing that has the best possible outcome. Don't act like you're doing what everyone else is doing because you're not.
Well, and that's it too. Yeah. There's a lot that some people can control for, but there's so many factors, and I just don't think everybody is totally as honest as they could be about it if they're public about later age. And
so you got to be honest with yourself and look at these people and know that you're not getting the whole story, and not that needs to blow out your birthday candles, but that you don't need to look in the mirror and feel like you're some giant failure because you didn't get pregnant with these means just because Mindy Kaling had a baby at 49.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
I know.
Well, we got to tie a bow on this episode, y'all. We could talk to Aimee till the end of time, but we all got places to go and people to help.
She put it in a book for you. So
that's right.
She did, called The Egg Quality Diet. And, if you would like to be triggered by the word diet, here you go.
I know.
If you would like to be triggered by the phrase, you can get pregnant, she's also your girl.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you are someone that's looking to take issue,
if you get triggered, I encourage you to
Aimee's
look at
your girl.
Yes. Amen.
Thank you.
So why don't we, after we just sort of made this little bit of a rain cloud on your wedding day about the realities of egg quality, why don't we end this with a yeah, girl, so that our listeners don't go home and cry?
Yeah, I'll go first. This past week, I had a 43-year-old client who struggled with her first 2 pregnancies, conceive. And she has PCOS, and it was much easier than the others. So, there you go. And I will say, I have seen a lot in, and there's some things we could talk about. Maybe we do a whole episode on this sometime about how there is some extended fertility we're seeing, or at least in our later fertile years, it's sometimes a little bit easier for women with PCOS to conceive, and there's reasons for that.
Yeah.
But that was a pretty big hurrah. 43.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, she'll be 44 when she delivers.
Wow.
Yeah, I just had.
Oh my gosh,
here's
even
mine.
Seamus
I just had my 47-year-old deliver. So it's a great story. She had a child, and then she was getting pregnant, and she was miscarrying. She came to me, I think, at like 44, and we worked on diet and supplements and all that, and she was only going to do IVF with a genetically tested embryo because she did not want to have any more miscarriages. We made a genetically normal embryo at the age of 45, transferred it, didn't take. So then she kind of she did a couple more retrievals after that. Nothing panned out. 46, she sends me like a breakup email, like, love you. It's the middle of COVID. Like, I'm not going to do it. I'm done. I'm happy with my life as is. Like, I have this baby. I'll always have another baby in my heart, but it is what it is. 46 and a half, I get an email from her, like, holy fuck, I'm pregnant. But, like, we know how this goes because she's had other miscarriages, right? So she's like, then it's like, holy fuck, the 8-week appointment went well. Oh my God, 10 weeks. Oh my God. Then
you already said
CVS.
fuck. You don't have to pull it back now, Aimee.
Then it's like CVS, amnio, CVS only. Healthy baby girl. She delivered at 47 and change. So this is a natural, like, it's kind of just, I mean, it's an amazing one. So there you have it. And I asked her, I was like, did you stay on the diet? Did you stay on the supplements? And she was like, she was always living a healthy lifestyle. We'll say that. And, like, are healthy. You know what I mean? Like, very conscious.
Yeah.
But she had a lot less stress because she wasn't going to the office as much because of COVID. And she was like, but I was drinking a little bit more. And I was still taking some of my supplements, not all of them. But my diet didn't really shift that much. And they were on vacation when she got pregnant, you know, in their special spot.
All the cliches just wrapped into one.
I know. So anyway, but it's just interesting. But I do think that speaks to, like, consistency and frequency because legit, like, she'd been with me since 44. So it was like 3 years of kind of doing all the things. Maybe even call it 2.5 of, like, some of it was off. But, like, I'd say 80-20 probably for her. And it's a beautiful story. She did message me and she said, although I gotta be honest, giving birth at 47 is no fucking joke.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh my gosh, I know, right? My sister and I just talked about that yesterday.
She was like, this is for real.
And the pregnancy, I'm sure, was like, end me now, Lord. Like, being pregnant when your body is that old.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
She did great, honestly. But that's what I mean. She was always, like, really healthy and fit. And, like, her body handled it. It was beautiful. Like, handled it well. I saw her at, like, 38 weeks pregnant. She was, like, walking from the subway in the city. Do you know what I mean? Like, rocking it.
You go, girl.
Hi, buddy. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, that's that. You know what? Let's count that as your yeah, girl, because that's a pretty great testimonial right there.
That is my yeah, girl. Yeah.
And you know what? I'll just put a third layer on this. If you're triggered by these births and BFPs, you know what? I'm just going to punch you with another one right here. While I was getting Aimee hooked on to the podcast today and getting the audio and everything figured out, I went into my inbox and I had two different women sending me pictures of their at-home pregnancy tests saying, I don't want to show this to anyone, but I need someone to look at this. Is this positive? And they freaking were. And so these two women, one of them did, over a decade on birth control pills. It took her almost a year to get her period back. And then it was another 14 months of trying to conceive before she got this positive pregnancy test, the first ever in her life. And then the other one has just sort of been on the roller coaster of working on various health issues and kind of having to throw out the book about everything she thought was healthy. I mean, she thought having a lean cuisine and a Diet Coke was like she's really considering her health. And that was a huge shift for her because just because it says healthy choice on that microwavable meal doesn't mean that it is actually a healthy choice. And so she made a lot of changes, did a lot of shifts, and she was over a year into her fertility journey as well, and she is finally pregnant for the first time. So very excited for both of those ladies. I am so honored. I'm sure all three of us can say being a part of the journeys for each person we mentioned here today is our life's greatest joy. It is our passion. It is the reason that we hire people to take care of our kids during the day so that we can get out there and we can serve you. And it's the reason we recorded this podcast episode at all today. It's because we are rooting for you. We want you to have that healthy baby. We want to give you our best to make that happen.
Yes.
So we're cheering you on, sister.
Yes. That's right.
Yes. Aimee, thank you for your time.
Thank you guys so much. I enjoyed this a lot.
All right. Well, if you like us and you love us, leave us a rating and review and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.